Hello, everyone. Very good evening to all of you. Of course, we are recording at 10 p.m. in the night here in Mountain Standard Time and probably 9 at Pacific Standard Time. So, of course, firstly, I wanted to tell you that the third men are literally the third man now because both of us, me and Pavan Bhaiya, both of us are on the uh, westernmost edge probably of the world. So we both are kind of recording this from Canada, and of course, I firstly wanted to thank all of your support for the and for the the support that you've given us for the previous video that we put up. Here we are after two more tests to cover the next two tests. Uh, we'll go through individually how the test has gone for India, the fourth test in London once again, and then of course what's going to happen at Old Trafford, Manchester. Welcome, Pawan Bhaiya. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Ravi. Nice to have you in Canada here and in familiar time zones. And it's nice to not have that headache anymore of scheduling our podcasts, keeping in mind the vast time difference between Canada and India. So it's a nice welcome um, thing that has happened. And like you mentioned, we have received a lot of love from the viewers. And our last episode has cranked up a good amount of views, and hopefully people will provide us with constructive feedback on how further we can improve our podcasts as well. And as you mentioned, it was a week to rejoice for all of us with India now leading the test series and hopefully on the cusp of a great series victory.
Indeed, that's very true. Of course, it has been an amazing test. 5 days of enthralling action. Uh, one moment down, one moment up, and then of course even on day five, the beauty of this test was that all three results were very much possible with the way England ended. Perhaps on day four, India was still looking to kind of go for the kill. Of course, there were selection wars, whatnot. So, of course, I wanted to take your view with respect to the India's greatest comeback, probably ever. Maybe I'm not very sure, but of course, London conquered for the second time. And uh, what do you think really went well for India, and what do you think really didn't go well for England? And also, there were many things that didn't go for well for India as well. So, what's your view, Vaya?
Yeah, it was a fantastic comeback by the Indian team, one of the best comebacks, as you suggested. It was not that we were behind or trailing in the series. Many people conveniently forgot that the series was still locked at 1-1 post that Headingley Test match. Of course, that Test match was a bit of a dampener for Team India, where they were bowled out for 78 in the first innings, and it was similar to the nightmare that the team faced in Adelaide. But they picked themselves up from the dust, and we all know what they did in the ensuing Test matches back in Australia. And that is one of the strong points of this current Indian team is their bounce back ability, and their tendency to bring out their best when their backs are up against the wall. After that defeat in Lords, many people were questioning as to how will England bounce back, and they replied in the earnest at Headingley. And then after that one defeat, question marks suddenly started to be raised about the Indian team, that we are back in familiar territory and how are we going to respond, and if we have a way back in the series, as many people were, reliving the ghosts of the 2014 series, where we were in a similar situation but went on to lose the last three test matches of the series pretty emphatically. Uh, but like I mentioned, that this side is a different kettle of fish. So the big question marks hovering around the test in Oval was the team selection. Many people were crying out to bring R. Ashwin into the scheme of things, and we were one of them. And Oval and Old Trafford are traditionally known to be helping out the spinners as the game progresses, and so this most of us thought would have been an apt opportunity to put in R. Ashwin back into the playing level, and raise some doubts in the English batting lineup. But Virat Kohli had other ideas, and he's always been a strong advocate of using the four-prong pace attack this series to keep that relentless pressure on the English batting. And seeing the performance of somebody like Ishant Sharma, it was a given that he's going to make way, as he was not his usual best. Again, people were very critical of Ishant Sharma, which was, I think, a tad unfair, because in the last 5 or 6 years, we all know we have seen the 2.0 version of Ishant Sharma, and he has been absolutely fantastic and consistent from the time he has changed his length and gone a bit fuller. So you're expected to have an off test match every now and then, just like Jasprit Bumrah was off color in that World Test Championship final. Uh, so sometimes in such kind of situations, a break needs to be given to the player, and we were expecting that change, and we were not too sure about Mohammad Shami's injury, so both of them were rested for that game, and in came Messrs. Umesh Yadav and Shardul Thakur. So nice to see Shardul Thakur back in the scheme of things after he did pretty well in that first Test match at Nottingham as well. And Kane Ashwin was not there, and I saw a lot of alarm bangs ringing on that first day once the playing 11 was decided on the toss. Um, and Joe Root won a good toss, and it was a tinge of green on the oval pitch. Uh, you could expect nothing less than that, because if that was not the case, then you might have played into the hands of the Indians. And everything went perfectly as per the script on day one for England, and they had 120 India on the ropes at 120 odd for seven, and we as viewers started to go, well, there we go again. Looks like that this slump of form that the team is experiencing from Headingley is just going to continue, and we are going to be bowled out cheaply again, and England will have the best of batting conditions on day two and three, and then it became second match for them. And that is where I would say Lord Shardul, who is who is being Christian right away after his heroics in this game, came into the picture on day one, and absolutely turned the tide in India's favor. I would say not out battered England, but when you're 120 odd for seven, you're expecting to roll out the opposition for close to 140, 150, especially with the kind of tail that India had. But he took it upon himself and played a ultra aggressive knock. And again, I saw Joe Root, the captain, rattled once Shardul was, going after the bowlers, and he did not seem to understand as to what hit him. And he had a very good partnership. I think out 63 runs with Umesh Yadav um in that first leg, and suddenly you saw the score of 190. Surely, not much difference between 150 and 190, but those 40 runs are very critical, and it just is nice to see those amount of runs on the scoreboard and gives your bowling attack something to bowl at, because they have been keeping you in the game at the end of the day. Um, and again, I think somebody like Virat Kohli would have been very disappointed after getting that start in the first innings as well, and not to go on and convert it into a big score. Uh, the top order was again found wanting just after that blip in Headingley. Uh, and once they had that 190 on the board, the bowlers responded in earnest with Bumrah again picking out the English openers very cheaply on the evening of day one. Some fantastic bowling very quickly. They realized that although it was a helpful wicket for the bowlers, but the lengths had to be just short of good length and not that foolish length that you would have to bowl on, most of the English wickets. So Bumrah was putting in extra effort, and on that benign pitch, as it was getting better and better to bat on, there had to be some extra effort put in there, and the crucial wicket again was taken by Umesh, who was also a fresh addition to the attack. Um, and the issue with Umesh has always been his consistency after playing for India for almost a decade. So getting that crucial wicket of Joe Root uh, on the evening of the first day was very critical, and we all knew that he is the man who is holding up the English batting lineup. So when they were 50 odd for three at the end of day one, it was pretty much even Stevens, and it was anybody's game after Shardul had pulled Indians back with the bat, and the bowling attack had cohesively made sure that they, took out the big fish, Joe Root. And on day two as well, India started very well and had England reeling at 60 for five. And there were small hopes, of us even getting a first innings lead. But Oli Pope, Johnny Bairstow, and Moeen Ali, and the likes of Chris Wokes had a different plan altogether. And even when Johnny Bairstow got out of that, after that partnership that he had with Ollie Pope in England, were 150 odd for six with 40 runs adrift, um, and suddenly the thoughts went back to England, raking up the runs from their lower order like in 2018 and scrambling up a lead, and that's exactly what happened. That they almost doubled their score after the loss of the sixth wicket of Johnny Bairstow. Chris Wokes was welcomed back into the test team, and he was brilliant with both the ball and the bat in that first innings. And soon we saw them breaking up a lead of close to 100 runs, which was absolutely like gold dust. Of course, it did not prove to be very essential in the end, but any lead, over 70 or 80 is very critical and match winning in most of the circumstances. And once they were 100 runs ahead, just before the end of day two, we knew that the onus was going to be on the Indian batsmen because time was not a factor in that test match anymore. And they required a huge second innings effort in the batting if they were to survive in this match. And again, kudos to the two openers, Rohit Sharma and Rahul. I don't think I've seen the Indian opening batsmen perform so well in the last decade. Post that partnership of Sehwag and Gambhir, who were very successful across all the conditions. Uh, we have had our opening, very fragile in the last decade or so with middle order performing, and the tables have turned surely as far as this series is concerned. And at the end of day two, they were pretty safe in the sense that they were pretty proactive and not only playing with stumps. And I think India were 40 odd for no loss at the end of second day's play. And again, at the end of second day, it was just even Stevens, and you did not know which team was going ahead. And come day three, we saw the best of Indian batting. I mean, that was the day when India batted the best so far in the Test series. And all credit to Rohit Sharma and to Cheteshwar Pujara and the brilliant partnership that they had. I always had this at the back of the mind that they are facing a 100-run deficit. So hopefully we are, just one wicket down or no loss by the time we wipe out that lead. So we were just one down. KL Rahul had a very good start as well, but he would have been kicking himself for not carrying on and converting that into a big score. But all this while we were mentioning that Rohit Sharma has played so brilliantly, and he has been the best batsman for India in this series so far, and he's done all the hard yards. And he truly deserved a big knock, and that was just around the corner. And we're also glad that all that hard work that he has put in bore fruit finally. And there were many question marks. And I think the final box that needed to be ticked off on his CV was playing as an opener in swinging conditions, because there has been traditional weakness against the swinging ball, and there were question marks over his ability to handle Anderson and co. With the Duke's ball in such helpful conditions. But I think after this performance, everybody should just shut up and acknowledge Rohit, the Test match opener, just like he got a second lease of life in his cricketing career once he started opening in white ball cricket post the 2013 Champions Trophy. We saw the best of Rohit Sharma come out, and I have no doubts in my mind that we are going to see Rohit Sharma, the Test opener, flourish in equal measure in the remaining part of his career. So it was really wonderful to see him, and more so Cheteshwar Pujara, who carried on from his second inning heroics in Headingley, has come out looking very positive and looks to make sure that he is punishing those bad balls. And I think uh, of late, that was the only thing he was, jittery about, that we would see Pujara of the old also play cautiously, but make sure that he punishes all the loose balls. And that was one thing that was pulling his strike rate back in the recent times. But I think from that second innings in Headingley where he got 91, he has been back to his best, and hopefully he he will get a ton in the next Test match or in that series against New Zealand at home as well, uh, because he really deserves it and he's been working really hard on the game. Um, and so India did very well on the third day with all these partnerships, and then Virat Kohli also was his usual best on that day three, and India ended up in a very commanding position at the end of day three. I think they were 170 ahead, but with again a lot of time left in the Test match, a couple of days, uh, it was uh, it was very critical for them to just make sure that they drive home the advantage. That is where again we lost a couple of quick wickets on day four, and we were only I think 200 runs or 220 runs ahead when lost six wickets, and we saw the likes of Rishabh Pant and Shardul Thakur put up a century stand again at a very critical time, which just made sure that the total was beyond England's reach or something that they will need to play out of their skin to win the Test match. Lord Shardul again brought his batting prowess to the fore and played a very sensible knock this time, not the swashbuckling knock that he played in the first innings. Um, and Rishabh Pant, also did very well and reined himself in and took his time. I think this is the pattern he has to follow more often than not in Test matches because he's too good a player to be just dancing down the track in these conditions and chuckling his wicket away. So I think somebody must have had a good word with him in the coaching staff, more so Ravi Shastri. Sometimes that kick up the backside is required for a player like Rishabh Pant, and I think that will hold him in good stead for the remainder of the series. And once India cranked up a lead of over 330, 340, it was more a time of when they're going to get bowled out or when are they going to declare crucial runs again from the lower order. Even just like I saw just Bumrah and Umesh Yadav added critical runs, and I think that's a very good sign that our tailenders are finally starting to put a price on their wicket and not be easily rolled over by the opposition. And the other thing that they did was England bowled close to 150 overs, and they made sure that the likes of Anderson, Robinson were pretty tired at the end of that second innings of India, and you could see hardly any what do you call assistance from the oval pitch, which was pretty benign when England were bowling on that second innings, and they were definitely missing somebody like a Mark Wood who had that extra pace and who would have been apt for such conditions because when nothing is happening through the pitch, then you got to make it happen through the air, which we will later discuss how the Indian bowlers fared in the second innings. And the England openers once again gave them a good start. By the end of day four, they were 77 for none, and like I mentioned, that until that time there were no demons in the wicket that were pretty visible, or you normally see a pitch crumbling right from day four onwards, but that was not to be seen. It was not a minefield or. Uh, and again, the match was in perfect balance with England leading 290 runs with all their 10 wickets in hand. And we all know that in modern day cricket, scoring close to 300 runs in a day is not an unachievable task anymore. And so on the final day, it was the question of India finding those breakthroughs, which they did via Shardul again. And there was a brilliant piece of fielding by Mayank Agarwal to run out David Malan. And I think after that, the floodgates really opened once Jasprit Bumrah bowled a fantastic spell, one of the best spells of fast bowling you will see in the recent times uh, in in England on a very unresponsive pitch. And I think it was a great tactical move by the Indians to make sure that Ravindra Jadeja bowls a very long spell out there in the rough. And the only reason I think he was bowling over the wicket to the left-hander, to the right-handers as well, was um, he was trying to pitch the ball in the rough so that the ball gets roughed up and gets conducive for reverse swing. Because the outfields are so lush in England that the ball is not going to roll over into the outfield and become rough and start reversing like it does in India. Although we have pristine outfields in India also right now. And I think they were working on the ball in the first session, and towards the tail end of the first session, I think we saw the first signs of reverse swing, and that is when just after lunch, Jasprit was brought into the attack, and that spell of 6 overs, although he took only 2 wickets, was absolutely fantastic to watch. Uh, the way he got Oli Pope and Johnny Bairstow, especially the latter with a cracking Yorker, was a reminder of his abilities with any kind of ball, be it red or white. Uh, and then Joe Root was very lucky to survive that spell, because he was in top form. He could bail out of those superb Yorkers that kept searing in from Bumrah. Once that happened, the other bowlers also chipped in. Shardul again had the better of Joe Root, like he did in Nottingham. And then once Root was gone, I think the writing was pretty much on the wall. And then it was just a matter of time. And the final bit was, Jimmy Anderson trying to make sure that he does not face much of Jasprit Bumrah. It was pretty evident from his first ball where he was just wanting to run down the other end. And Ollie Robinson did a good job of shielding him uh, at the fag end of that session. And It was a fantastic victory by 157 runs. It's a pretty comprehensive victory as far as the scorecard is concerned, but we all know that how tantalizingly or close that test match was, because at the end of the first 4 days, every day at stumps, we would say that the match is still in the balance, and there was no team breaking away until that post lunch session on day 5. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the first time that the second time India have won more than one test match in a series in England. The first time that they did was in 1986 when they won the 3-match series 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
And so they might just want to create history by winning that third test match, and that will be only the second time ever that we have won more than 2 test matches in a Sena country. The only time India has won 3 test matches in a Sena country is our first overseas test victory in 1967 when we won 3-1 in New Zealand under the captaincy of the great Mansoor Ali Khan Pataudi. And I think if Virat Kohli as a captain wins a series in Australia, I mean, he was the captain in 2018, and Rahane was captain for most of the time in the recent series. But on a whole, if the Indian team wins a series in England and Australia in the same year, and we've got South Africa coming up, and I'm pretty much sure that they'll be the favorites for that series as well, I think then this will inarguably be the best Indian Test side of all time without any doubt. So all in all, a fantastic performance. I would say a team performance. I was personally very disappointed when Shardul Thakur was not given the man of match, because if you have so many performances within the team, Pujara, Rohit, Virat batted well in both the innings in spite of not getting a big score. And the bowlers, Bumrah, Umesh, Jadeja in his own way contributed. Shardul scoring those 250s at two critical junctures of the innings and also picking up crucial wickets. I think he thoroughly deserved to be the man of the match. But in the end, one of the best overseas text victories. And it was a fitting tribute on the 50th anniversary of our Oval victory in 1971 when we won a series for the first time in England as well. And that was a watershed moment as well 50 years ago when we won the Test series in England. And we also won in West Indies that year. So, all in all, a great victory. And I think they will not be satisfied with just being 2-1 up. We all know that they cannot lose the series now, but they can definitely, they will definitely be on the lookout for that extra fill up and will want to make it 3-1 in the end, come Old Trafford. So that, in a nutshell, was my experience, Ravi, about that test match. Um, what about you? You would like to add anything to that?
Well, I think it's pretty complete, like the way you pretty much described. So, well, I'll play a devil's advocate and I'll probably highlight what exactly went wrong, perhaps for India. Of course, I started my probably the intro of this very episode saying we were down at one very moment, but of course, we kind of resurrected ourselves and uh, managed to win this game. But at the same time, there are of course few pain points that I was a bit personally a bit concerned, mainly with respect to day one and the way we started batting, and of course it was seeming moving conditions, quite overcast, but still, the Shardul Thakur's 50 innings probably doesn't happen very often. Maybe it's that very once in 10 games kind of an innings. wherein we were probably about 127 for 7, and we were indeed very uh, lucky to probably get to 190 because Shardul also maintained a very healthy strike rate. He was just striking the ball here and there, not really managing to stick around. So of course that's one kind of a I'll say somewhere some place wherein our batting has been tested to the fullest, wherein the top order has not done much. Virat was looking really good with his 50, but of course was not able to kind of take it forward as well. Uh, Secondly, what I also wanted to talk was with respect to how we were bowling really well in the first innings. At one point, 62 for 5, say 151 for 6, and then England end up scoring 290 thanks to Ollie Pope's beautiful innings. Bairstow added loads of runs. Moeen Ali's 35 odd, and also lastly, Vokes' innings again frustrated us. You know, old wounds heal don't probably not so quickly, but of course they reminded of what Vokes can also do with the bat along with the ball. Uh, so that's I mean cleaning up the tail was one area of a concern, at least in the first innings, but in the second innings we've done it so brilliantly well. So I mean, not to say that that really impacted her in any way. Of course, that victory seems sweet, but at the same time, it was very frustrating on day one and day two to actually come across this. But how the game has turned out in the next 3 days still kind of feels very surreal. Uh, Now I'll come to two main themes of how this test went and how the cricketing world largely reacted. Okay, firstly, it's with respect to the selection related rant. Okay, of how we are it's how we are not playing Ashwin, and how that is kind of senseless from Kohli or senseless from the captain, or how Ravi Shastri is drunk and stuff like that. What we have seen across Twitter over the last 5 days has been okay, toxic to a great extent, but of course the game ended on our note. So we can always say, okay, since we won the game, every decision taken is perfect as well. Of course, while there is a logical understanding to how uh, Ashwin could have been a good fit. My point is not necessarily with respect to if Ashwin is being treated well or no, but I come from a school of thought wherein I was kind of sticking to what was already going well, which is the combination of four seamers and of course one spinner being Jaddu, who was before the test was about fourth highest run getter ahead of Rahane, Virat Kohli and Pant. So with his batting also, Jaddu has done really well. So I was never confused if Ashwin should be picked or no. Secondly, in hindsight, of course, what Umesh and Shardul have done to the team, done with their performance, cannot be just kind of complained much. I think the way Umesh has bowled in the first innings and also in the second innings, the way he's managed, it speaks volumes. So I personally think uh, Ashwin was not being able to accommodate, and I don't necessarily see it to be a massive disrespect to his ability and skill. What I also have seen, I mean, like after coming to Canada, I was watching the Sky feed, right? There was a lot of rant, lot of talking by, say, Nasir Hussain, Rob Key, Atherton about how Ashwin is very, very critical on day 5, and how it's like absolutely senseless. Nick Compton put up some, some livid tweets, but which are probably humorous as we kind of read today. But nonetheless, there was a lot of push even from the English media to actually highlight for a fact, saying that okay, there's something wrong in the Indian camp. Why is he being ignored? So that's kind of an hunch that I have. Probably I could be wrong on that line. So selection related rant. Uh, I think see, were we playing with our best available 11? I personally think we were not in a situation to kind of drop any of them, and it was important for us to play all four seamers. Um Siraj being one seamer who didn't really perform well, we can say now in hindsight. But come on, that guy did everything that he could. So there's not a single player that could be dropped, at least for the fourth test. And so that's how I see the entire selection related rant. Lastly, of course, like you rightly pointed out, by a man of the match. Uh, of course, this is trivial, and considering it went to Rohit, I don't really. even want to kind of talk much about it, because Rohit absolutely deserves for the way he has managed playing the new ball in the second innings. But at the same time, okay, Shardul with his 117 runs versus Rohit's 138 runs, you know, in the two innings. Similarly, three crucial wickets. Shardul picked Ollie Pope in the first innings when he was 80 odd. And then he gets Rory Burns in the second innings, which is our first wicket. And not to forget the main Joe Root. What I kind of do not understand is, I won't say it's a no-brainer kind of thing, but this happened in the second test at Lord's too, wherein Siraj looked a bit favorite to kind of uh, get the man of the match award, but the Sky Sports entire panel kind of voted against and gave it to KL Rahul, who scored an amazing 100. No two ways there. Of course, both of them are deserving, but it's all the question of who deserves more. So I think I won't use the words like Shardul has been robbed and stuff like that. Of course, it's lovely to see that there are two to three contenders actually, always in contention for the man of the match award. So it's equally beautiful. But I just want to understand what all facets of a discussion takes place when the Sky Sports jury actually decide that. While I'm whining about how Sky Sports was a bit, say, uh, a bit opinionated on many things, but I really loved the way they kind of covered the entire two innings uh, across the 5 days of test. So of course, no regrets there. So I think these are 3 to 4 rants of mine, because the good stuff, the amazing, exhilarating stuff is something that you beautifully covered. So no two ways there. Uh, Now, next up, what I really want to talk about is what are we awaiting at Old Trafford? Like you rightly pointed out, uh, we're looking at a wicket that is probably not as dusty, or as may not spin as much as oval, but maybe a very close, uh, good, very close pitch to oval. Because what I've been reading is Manchester is sunny as hell for the next 3 4 days. It's going to be very dry, is what people are suggesting. So when we look at combination, I don't know, for some reason I think Virat may not drop Ajinkya. He may still go with Ajinkya. Maybe it's probably one last chance for him, probably to do well on a fairly a fast track perhaps, or on a track wherein it spins well. Secondly, also with Ashwin's selection, I think we may play three seamers and two spinners on this track. May see Siraj go out. So I'm not very sure if Shami also would be back into the team. So I'm personally waiting to see if we would actually play three seamers and two spinners, or worst case scenario, I think the bowling lineup will still be the same, but we'll still be able to accommodate Ashwin because he can bat a bit. Given Rahane's form currently, I think Ashwin may pile up more runs than Rahane put together. You never know. So it's going to be an interesting, tricky scenario. Shami with when his ball reverses as well, as in when his deliveries reverse as well, I think it would be amazing to watch. So I think Old Trafford, it would pretty much be the mantra of, say, Sydney in 2018, wherein we put up a total of more than 600. I think we should be looking forward to do that. Of course, going for the kill is something Virat and his pack of wolves love to do. They may would love to want to finish the series at 3-1, but honestly speaking, I would love to see safety first. So if you're batting first, or probably when batting second, right, important to score 550 plus. And it's very much possible given our batting attack. And of course, boys are pumped and would be lovely to see. I'm just waiting to see also if Rohit is completely fit as well. So a lot of unanswered questions. Perhaps in a day or two we'll be able to understand far more than, probably we'll have more information that what we have today. But nonetheless, I'm a bit on the conservative side. I'll say score big, score slow, perhaps, and then wait for our spinners to do the rest in the second innings of, or probably even in the first innings of England for that matter. So, what's your take on the Old Trafford test, for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of questions still need to be answered by both the teams before the all-important fifth Test match. I think one of the when it comes to India, It will remain to be seen how the body is holding up for both Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj, because they have played the last three test matches, which have been pretty much back to back. I'm pretty much sure with India ahead, that will give them an extra motivation to play that test match. So it remains to be seen how the medical staff thinks that they are performing in there with respect to their fitness. And one thing is a given that as long as Virat Kohli is captain, he is going to go in with five bowlers, no matter what the conditions. He might just do that strategy if we are playing at home in spinner-friendly conditions. But when we are playing overseas, I think it's a given now that we're going to go with five bowlers. And he's pretty stubborn in that approach. For example, when play did not happen at all on that very first day of the World Test Championship, India had already announced their 11 with the two spinners and three seamers. And after it had rained on the first day, the toss was not even done, and he had the opportunity to change the playing 11. Um, but he went by his hunch that whatever was decided was the best playing 11. So that was one part of the spectrum, and the other part of the spectrum was once he decided that we are going to go in with the four-prong pace attack. That's been the thing that he's been following in the four test matches, and he would come back and say, "Sir, see, we are leading 2-1 in the series, and my conviction has been answered in a proper manner." And I would echo your thoughts as well that Manchester, from the feedback that we have received, has been very spin friendly in this season so far. And it's not going to be like that. They're going to dish out a dry track, and I think it's going to be most like the oval, where helping the seamers on the first couple of days, and then be good for batting, and then starting to take turn. Again, it's a question of accommodating the best possible players in the playing 11. And when it comes to the fast bowling unit, I think if Mohammad Shami is fit, it would not be a second thought for him not to be part of the playing 11. I think he might come in at the expense of Mohammad Siraj, who has looked good in patches, but I think he's playing such high intensity back to back test matches probably for the first time in his career, and it will do no harm to give him a break and bring in further experience in the form of Mohammad Shami. And we know that he is going to be lethal with reverse swing like Jasprit Bumrah, and so India will have all three, Umesh, Shami, and Bumrah, adept at making use of those reverse swinging conditions, uh, if that is possible at Old Trafford. And again, if India have to play Ashwin, then they have to, make way for him and drop Jadeja, for the simple reason because I don't see Shardul Thakur being dropped from the 11 after his exploits in the Oval Test match, both with the bat and the ball. And it'll be unfair to him as well if he has to be dropped after such a performance. So if Ashwin has to walk into the playing 11, it has to be only at the expense of Jadeja, as far as I'm concerned. And with respect to the batting, yes, Ajinkya Rahane has been the weak link and the only batsman not been at his usual best, apart from that 60 odd that he hit in the second innings of Lords, and that pretty much kept India in the match. And I think there's a lot of self doubt in Ajinkya when he's coming out to bat. And one of the, I don't know what effect that had on him when Ravindra Jadeja was promoted ahead of him, whether it was a tactical move by the Indians to just disturb the rhythm of the English bowlers by bringing in a left hand right hand combination, or whether it was something that was already decided pre-match or at the spur of the moment. And if it was the latter, then it might have dented his confidence a bit as well. And being the vice captain of the team as well, there's just that extra bit of responsibility on Ajinkya. Absolutely a lovely lad, and everybody wants him to do well, but there's only such a rope that you can give. Similar doubts were over Pujara's abilities for no reason, because as we know that both these players, have been stupendous in the last 6 months or so. If not for these two players, we would have never won the Melbourne Test, never drawn the Sydney Test, and never won the Gabba Test. So they had a huge role to play, even in that home series against England. Um and I would like to agree with you that they will surely play Ajinkya in that last Test match. If India would have lost this Test match, then probably there would have been a knee-jerk reaction, and They might have replaced him with somebody like a Vihari or a Surya Kumar Yadav, but because
Mhm.
India are ahead in the piece, I think they will give him that final test match at Manchester, and then possibly the ball will be in Ajinkya's court to make sure that he delivers. Um, and God forbid if he fails, we might see him out of the team in the ensuing series against New Zealand at home. But fingers crossed that'll be a good test match for him, and he'll be able to score runs. So yeah, I don't see any changes in the Indian team except for Mohammad Shami being fit and coming in place of Mohammad Siraj. And when it comes to England, we know that Josh Butler is back for them, and Jack Leach has been added into the playing squad. Saqib Mahmood, unfortunately, is injured as he experienced that in a recent county game. And they're in the same boat as well. They have to see how Anderson and Robinson are responding, because in that second innings, you could see that they were bowlers who had bowled a lot of overs and were not running the usual stuff. And you should not expect them to as well, because it does take a lot out of body when you're playing back-to-back test matches. It'll be pretty hard to keep somebody like a Jimmy Anderson away from playing a test match at his home ground.
Mhm.
And with his team being 2-1 down, there'll be an added motivation for him to participate. But again, it depends on uh, how his body responds. And I have a feeling that he will play because after this series, they've got a long gap as far as test matches are concerned. And their next test match is going to be in November, I believe, in the Ashes down under. So they'll have a substantial break. Um, and one change that I definitely see coming for them is in the form of Mark Wood. I think they need that extra pace. I was a bit surprised that they did not choose him for the Oval Test match, knowing the conditions over there would be pretty flat for batting, and you need bowlers which are quicker through the air in such conditions. And I think Craig Overton might make way for him. He was very good in helpful conditions in Leeds, but not that effective in at the Oval. The Indian batsmen, once they saw off Robinson and Anderson, knew that they would have some easy pickings against the likes of Craig Overton. Chris Wokes has been a revolution. I mean, he's always been a great all-round cricketer. Just that he's been injured quite often and not played consistently enough. But hopefully, he's going to have a long run in the English team. He is definitely a better all-round prospect than somebody like a Sam Curran. Sam Curran, Chris Wokes is definitely a better batsman and a bowler than Sam Curran at this point of time. So they look for him to, uh, uh, play in the same vein that it did at the Oval. And with respect to their batting, I think they might be just tempted to play Josh Butler in place of Johnny Bairstow, because Oli Pope has given a good account of himself with that 81 in the first innings. And Johnny Bairstow has been, you know, very inconsistent for his liking, being a senior member of the team. He should have been the one at number 5, helping out Joe Root in that middle order, especially since the likes of Burns, Hamid, and Malan have been pretty good in the last two test matches, and given them good starts, you cannot expect Joe Root to keep bailing them out of trouble every now and then. He was also due for a bad test match, and the law of averages caught up with him. So those will be the two changes I foresee in the English lineup. One is Josh Butler coming in place of Johnny Bairstow, and then Mark Wood replacing Craig Overton. Uh, the third change might or might not happen, seeing on the conditions, because Moeen Ali, has been India's nemesis in the past, but he's very inconsistent. Right from the time he bowls his first delivery, an off spinner has a deep point, and Jurud always has that full fielder for that every bat ball that he bowls in an over. So that is a run saving position, not a wicket taking position. And you will see all the premier off spinners bowling without a deep cover point, and inviting batsmen to drive against the turn through the covers. So if they want consistency in line and lunge, Jack Leach would be the preferred option, a different angle left arm option. And he was pretty good against India in the home series over here earlier this year. So that is another change I might see coming in, although he's not quite adept with the bat as Moeen Ali, but picking up wickets is the key over here as far as England is concerned. So these are my thoughts on these two sites for the upcoming Manchester Test. And the first couple of days, there is rain forecast in Manchester. The Indians would not be complaining one bit as they are ahead in the series, but they would definitely want to end up the tour on a high. And if they end up winning the series 3-1, then that will be one of the most memorable and sweetest overseas victories for India, having tamed the old enemy both at home and away in a space of few months' time. So, all in all, it proves to be a great spectacle. It's been wonderful watching the series. There are very few series in modern day cricket, as you know, especially in Test cricket, that uh, provide us with such riveting action. So, all in all, we look ahead to another cracking Test match at Manchester. Um, and that leads to me that leads to one final topic of discussion as far as this series is concerned, Ravi, and that is Virat Kohli, the captain, in this Test match, especially at the Oval. I personally think that tactically this was the best I have seen so far in his Test match career as a captain. I've always been a firm believer that when people say he's a born captain, that is some kind of a nonsensical thing. You're not a born captain, but you're a born leader for sure. And he has always been a born leader, and has had that charisma to lead and influence the players that he is leading, and that kind of has a domino effect on the rest of the team as well. And like we saw, the kind of aggression that they displayed in the Lord's Test match in that second innings was something we have never seen from an Indian team before as a collective unit. Uh, and always believe that the tactical side of captaincy is always developed by a captain over a period of time in his career. Even the best of the best captains like Mike Brearley, uh, Mansoor Ali Khan Pataudi, Clive Lloyd, and all these guys. They were leaders in their own way, but developed their tactical nous and their tactical ability over a period of time by playing for a certain period and getting to understand how things work. And I think, especially his captaincy on the last day with his tactics of making sure that Jadesa keeps bowling in that rough to scuff off the ball and make sure that reverse swing comes into the picture, and then setting pretty um, odd fields on the leg side with sometimes two mid wickets and a square leg and sometimes three squarish mid wickets, and asking the bowlers to just keep on bowling those in duckers with the old ball, so that batsmen can play on the leg side. That gives them a catching option, and not only that, bringing bold and LBW also into the picture was something nice to see. And every bowling change that he did paid rich dividends on that final day. So I think he has evolved as a captain, and he's one captain who has been a strong advocate of Test cricket. And somebody like Ian Chappell said very recently that if players want to uphold the legacy of Test cricket, then they have got to have Virat Kohli as their spokesperson all over the world. And that is true in every bit as far as I'm concerned, because we need that next set of cricketers, the next generation, to be very passionate about Test cricket. Something that we do as fans, I have to wake up 3 a.m. every day, irrespective whether it's a working day or a holiday, to view that Test match. My alarm is set at 2:45 in the morning, and I'm not too sure if I would wake up for a white ball game, but more so for Test cricket, definitely. And it's because of these players and the band of cricket that they are dishing out that we are even more interested as fans and take interest in every Test match. And we are more concerned about how we are doing in red ball cricket versus white ball cricket, because if you have to be remembered as a great team, then you're remembered for exploits in the white flannels. So your thoughts on Virat Kohli, the captain, as we wrap up the discussion around this series. Sorry, the Test match.
Oh yeah. So what we saw at Lords as well was one. good amount of tactical supremacy, at least from Virat's side. And what's good to see at Oval is the entire plan of his, the conviction, defying all odds. There's a lot of rants here and there, whatnot. He stuck to his what he thought was very probably dear to him. The entire right from the squad, right from the selection to how he wanted to phase out the innings and stuff. Let's not forget at Lords there were a few more details like the declaration for that matter. Also, few prudent reviews. The declaration was talked about much at the Lord's Test, isn't it? Wherein you just kind of pile up 9 more runs and then you declare. So all these are trivial matters, which of course, when things go our way, we can talk about how well they went and stuff like that. But of course, at Oval, we did see uh, pure Virat Kohli, the leader supremacy. Of course, not many can actually attribute it to the Rohit Sharma factor, isn't it? We've seen the set during one of the T20s at Ahmedabad, wherein everyone was like, okay, Rohit Sharma is there, so he kind of manages the game and whatnot. So Rohit was not even around. So this is for all those, not the genuine Rohit fanboys, but the toxic ones who really want see captaincy or to be one sense of pinnacle or a sense of supremacy or ego or whatnot. So of course, I'll not kind of invite furthermore debate. What I mean to say is, of course, I mean, sorry, Virat has been absolutely fantastic, and it's fitting. He's also already at 38 test wins, if I'm not wrong, and he's just behind probably Ricky Ponting and Graham Smith perhaps. And if things go as it is, and probably if he plays around 4 more years as a captain, right, or 3 more years perhaps, of course, with majority of games at Test at India as well, we may see him to be the most successful Test captain of all time. Greatest or no? Of course, debatable. But as things stand, he is of course the most successful Indian Test captain as well. So yeah, now one final, probably a couple of minutes. What I thought is, now let's see what the captain Virat Kohli would do for his T20 selection, T20 World Cup selection, because ICC trophy is something that haunts him. Uh, of course, he captained two tournaments wherein we've done pretty well and whatnot, but nonetheless, lifting a trophy is a must. So it would be interesting to see what 15 men team would he take to. I mean, of course, would he play at UAE? Nonetheless, considering the second half of IPL still around, so I think it's still a bit premature because we don't know what may transpire, right, from injuries to fitness to form to whatnot. But nonetheless, I think do you foresee any surprise picks, Baya? I honestly, I don't foresee much. Like how we were discussing, I think majority, all 15 will be not necessarily surprise, but I it would be pretty much straightforward is what I foresee. But of course, maybe if Varun Chakravarti or a Rahul Chahar may still slide in through. So what is your thought on that?
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty interesting selection, as far as the World T20 is concerned. Again, it boils down to the fact that we have such a wide array of talent currently in Indian cricket that some or the other player is bound to miss out because you can only accommodate 15 people in there. Um, it'll be interesting to see who they select as far as the top order is concerned because I'm pretty much sure they're going to go uh, towards the youth brigade and as far as the middle order is concerned. I think Shikhar Dhawan might be unlucky to miss out. They might go in with Rohit, Virat, and KL Rahul as far as the top order is concerned. We cannot be accommodating four top order batsmen in your 15. So I think that might be the case. And with Rohit and Virat opening in T20 cricket at the end of that series against England might be the template going forward as well to accommodate some of the other power hitters in the middle order.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sky, Surya Kumar Yadav, and the likes of Shreyas Iyer, um, Ishan Kishan, and Rishabh Pant would definitely be in my scheme of things as well. You would say we already have KL Rahul as a wicketkeeper who can play as a second wicketkeeper. So why would you select both Pant and Kishan? It is more to do with their batting abilities and their ability to hit the ball out of the park right from ball one is what would hold them in good stead as far as selection is concerned. So this would be the batting options, and of course the two all-rounders that I foresee are definitely going to be Hardik Pandya, one pace bowling all-rounder, and Ravindra Jadeja, the spinning all-rounder. And then it remains to be seen who do they stack up when it comes to the spinners, because they are going to play a important role in the UAE now, uh, and because the second half of the IPL is going to be played on the same pitches or the stadiums that the World T20 is going to be held in. So the pitches will definitely get tired out and get slower and lower, and it's a spin going forward as well. I see Yuzvendra Chahal in the scheme of things. I don't think they might tilt towards Rahul Char and want a second leg in the squad, and I definitely feel that um, it might be somebody like a Varun Chakravarti who gets a nod, again subject to fitness levels, as he's been found wanting as far as fitness is concerned. But if he stacks up against um, the benchmark that is set, and he'll definitely be selected. And then the final spinner slot, I think, will be a dash between Ravichandran Ashwin and Washington Sundar. We all know that Virat Kohli prefers Washington Sundar because he tends to bowl in the power play and is handy with the bat and very good in the field as well. Not that R. Ashwin cannot do that job, but Washington is injured at the moment and I think he's not going to play a role in the IPL. So how ready will he be for a major world tournament remains to be seen. But I will definitely, if he's not available, then look out for Ravichandran Ashwin and play him as well. And how Ashwin's IPL goes as well um, will also remain to be seen. And he'll be very keen, especially after missing out on these test matches in England, to prove a point uh, to everybody and to the selectors as well. So I will definitely, pick him if Washington Sundar is not available. And then the Pacers probably select themselves with Bumrah and Shami leading the attack, and Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who was great in that series against England,
Mm-hmm.
truly an asset with the new ball. And the last seamer slot, I think, might be a shootout between Shardul Thakur and Deepak Chahar. Uh,
Not Mohammad Siraj.
I don't think so as far as World T20 is concerned. I don't think he has played T20 cricket for India, if I'm not wrong. Uh, yeah, he's been good. Mohammad Siraj has been a revolution in red ball cricket, but I think that Shardul has already proved his credentials in the white ball game, and he has this uncanny knack of picking up wickets every time he turns up to bowl, and is a handy asset with the bat as well. So you already have a swing bowler in Bhuvneshwar Kumar, so I don't think you might have Deepak Chahar in your repertoire as well, and I think that would tilt the scales in favor of Shardul. Another bowler who would have been a straight pick if he was not injured was T. Natarajan. But unfortunately, that is not the case. I don't know if he's going to be available for the Sunrisers in the IPL or not. But I don't think he's going to be selected because he's been a bit undercooked and has not been playing for a considerable time now. So these are
Fair.
the usual suspects or the people who I see in the team. Uh,
That's true. Eh,
first, yeah, complicating things
where
further.
it gets very tricky, 15 to be picked, with the kind of prowess that we have, fresh out of IPL memory, you'll see, of course, the entire 1.3 billion people turning out to be cricket pundits because they're fresh out of their IPL memory as well. So, nonetheless, as in, like you rightly pointed out, of course, Siraj, which is good amount of IPL performances as well, still may not make cut to the team. And of course, who will be a left arm seamer is still a question that needs to be answered, perhaps. Uh, of course, I think you'll be kind of taking good amount of spinners or probably spinning all rounders. Someone like a Washington Sundar hence adds that variety. Uh, Pretty much like a Jaddu who probably spins the other way around, which is left arm, and Washington just does the opposite, and both of them bat left. So, of course, I won't speculate much because there's so much that could perhaps happen. We're seeing similar uh, I'll say rants or probably some amount of outrage over how Pakistan also picked their team. And so of course I won't expect much of circus or drama of such sort, but at least I'm pretty sure that we'll pretty much rely on the IPL performances and form that folks are carrying. So let's not forget Rohit has been very average in UAE last time around, and pretty much did well in the final. And of course also Ishan has been pretty average this time around in the IPL in India. So of course there are a lot of ifs, lot of buts. It just remains to be seen which would be our perfect 15 squad at least as of now, and I'm at least foreseeing at least 2 to 3 changes by the time World T20 actually comes closer. So I think that's a word from my side. Any final thoughts from your side?
No, Ravi, I think you summed it up really well, and we had a very good and fruitful discussion on the India Indian Test series and what to look forward to as far as the World T20 squad selection is also concerned. And all of us will be looking forward to that Test match come Friday early morning over here in Canada. It's going to be played at Old Trafford. So maybe India will continue in the same vein and win the series handsomely over the English and take one step further in that goal of being a well-rounded test team that performs in all conditions. And that is one thing that we have to remain pretty neutral and grounded, irrespective of the result. I know that people in India and the various media houses um, and pundits tend to go overboard with every victory and defeat as well. And so it's very important for us to stay grounded in that regard and have a look at the things that went well, even in a loss, and also have a look at the things which did not go well in a victory as well, so that we maintain that balance. Of course, the team does not get affected by all this noise outside. Otherwise, you would have seen so many changes in the playing 11 already. That is not how international teams work, and especially this group believes in something and backs the players to the hilt once a decision has been made. And we hope that the communication is very transparent between the management and the players in that regard. Uh, that is one thing that we always would keep a close tab here on the Third Man Cricket podcast, is to maintain a sense of neutrality in both defeat and in um, victory, and take both with equal amount of restraint, and then look forward to better cricketing action, because that is what we are. Firstly, cricket fans before being Indian cricket team fans. We want to go watch a good game of cricket, and sometimes, in spite of playing well, the team whom you support might not end up on the right side of the result, which is fair enough. And you want to give credit to the opposition where it's due. So that would be my 2 cents to sum up this episode. Ravi, if you have anything else to add.
Well, nothing much, but I think it has been fairly, like you rightly pointed out, a very well uh, good long session after a long time perhaps. So I think on that note, I think we can pretty much wrap up our episode number 23. Of course, a lot more to go. We'll meet perhaps once again once the Old Trafford test ends, and I hope we'll have a smiling Indian team with a trophy in their hand as a thumbnail or as a video image for the next video. So that's about it, guys, from our side for this week. Uh, you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, and thanks for your support so far. And we'll get more. And of course, thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, share, and subscribe, as Ravi said, and also do not forget to click on the notification icon so that whenever we upload a new episode, that throws an alert right up to you, and you can go in and listen to our podcast. And we would welcome any suggestions to improve our podcast as well, and are more than welcome to accept constructive feedback from your end. So thank you very much for joining in, and we will see you soon on the other side after the final test match of the ongoing series. See you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.